Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this edition of Sisters of Legacy. It's going to be a great night, so we're going to run our intro and we'll be right back. Hey, everybody, we are back. So I'm here with my two lovely co-hosts. Ladies, we all good?
Hey, yes,
All right, so we have with us tonight the amazing Shanetta McNair
that's me.
and the awesome Katrina Taylor.
Hey.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell y'all a little story about Shanetta real quick. We were together over the weekend and we talked about her entrance and how she, announced herself. And she was like, she had some rhyme that she said and everything. She was all hyped at the house. And then tonight, what do we get, ladies and gentlemen? Hey, that's me. I just want y'all to know that is not Shanetta McNair in her entirety. I want y'all to know y'all are being cheated on the awesomeness that she holds. So I just had to say that, and I think Shanetta, you want to add anything to that? Is Shanetta frozen or did she leave us?
No,
Oh,
it's being weird. I don't know.
it's all right. I think between the terrible Georgia weather all day long and whatever might be a rocky night, ladies and gentlemen, but we gotta make it work because that's what we do. So tonight, um, our topic for the night, as you can see, is how do we listen? I don't know you like I listen with my ears. Yes, we all listen with our ears, but due to some conversation over the weekend, it kind of made me think of how sometimes when somebody says something to us, depending on what we have going on in that particular moment, what's going on in our head at that time, it may be a bad week. I kind of feel like that's how we receive and process the information based on what's going on with us. So sometimes it's almost like we hear things that people aren't actually saying, and not like in a malicious way, not to be messy. It's just kind of something involuntary that can happen, and it happens to all of us. It has definitely happened to me before because I hear something, and in my mind, that's what you said, and you said it just like this, and that is not always the case. So I kind of wanted to talk about that tonight. Like, have we ever had those experiences? What has that experience been like? Is it something that you've noticed and somebody's brought to your attention? Or is it like something like you never really thought about it, but you're thinking about it now because I just said it? And I think it can also happen with text. You ever get a text from somebody and you reading it in one way and they don't, and then when like then they call in and you don't want to talk to them, you don't send me no nasty text, and not even realizing that you kind of misinterpreted the message. And like I said, not in a messy way or a malicious way. It's just sometimes if you texting me and I've had it up to here with the day and your text come in, unfortunately, that is the way that I might perceive the text. That here goes somebody else with something else to say. And unfortunately, your message can be received or perceived wrongly. So, Shanetta,
Uh-huh.
I'll start with you. Have you ever had any of those experiences?
Absolutely, definitely have had those experiences. Text is the worst because you definitely read text kind of like in what you think is the voice of the other person or in the tone of the other person. And I think that sometimes wires can get crossed through text message, which is why sometimes you just need to pick up the phone and actually have a phone call because you can hear things better.
Right.
Depending on who it is, it might need to be FaceTime because you might need to see the way they look at it too. Just depending on who it is and what the situation is. You can't FaceTime everybody now. And I mean, you can't FaceTime everybody like in general, but like, then you have your Android users, so you can't FaceTime them anyway. So, there's that. But nonetheless, but I do think that wires get crossed sometimes based on how we perceive things, based on how we perceive the person that's sending us the message or communicating to us, based on the state of our heart and our own mind at that particular moment. And then again, when you're communicating face to face with somebody, I think you can misinterpret things too
Right.
based on body language and movements and how you perceive a person. Like I may think, a person who has their arms crossed has an attitude, whereas they could really just be cold. And they could just be talking like this because they're cold versus, an attitude. But in my head, you have a whole attitude because you're sitting there with your arms crossed.
Right.
I don't know that your iron levels are low and that you like low key freezing right now. I just think you got an attitude. I've been told a lot that like I just look mean when I'm not talking, when I'm listening intently. That I just have this mean look on my face, and they're like, "Are you okay? Are you mad? Are you upset?" And I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm listening to what you were saying. I'm trying to make sure I don't misinterpret what you're saying."
Right.
So I'm paying attention. So I definitely think perception um, plays a huge role in how we interpret what someone is communicating. And we have to kind of, I guess, learn how to communicate past that.
I will say, like, people say all the time, like, oh, what's wrong? You're not smiling. Just, I
Hmm.
mean, there's nothing wrong. I'm not a smiler. I mean, I don't even know what, like what you say to that. Like, to me, I don't know. I blame a lot of stuff, and I will say blame a lot of stuff on being from New York. I don't know if that's like real factual, but for me, it definitely is. Like, I'm sure people listen to this and be like, wow, she makes New Yorkers just seem so mean. Um,
I had a friend who literally, not a friend, a person that I was working with who literally said to me, we were talking about tone and we were talking about approach and tone with, they were working with children. And I was trying to teach them how to talk to the children. And her response to me was, I'm from New York. You just don't understand. And I'm like, girl, I don't care if you from New York, New Jersey, or Timbuktu. There's a way to talk to these kids, and you cannot talk to them like that. Like, cause like what they hear is you barking at them, and like you gotta soften it just a little bit, calm it down. And what I was explaining to her is that I know other people from New York too, and they don't come off like this. Like you're just mean right now, and I need you not to be.
well, yeah, I mean, like I said, like the smiling thing. I don't know, like I don't, I don't just think smile. Just I don't know. It just seems like a waste of face muscles. Just
What?
You
I
use
don't, I
less
don't, I
face
don't,
muscle smiling than you do frowning.
huh?
You use less face muscle smiling than you do frowning.
But I mean, to me, like just my normal look, I'm not doing either. Like this is just my face. Like I'm not trying to scowl at you, but I'm not really trying to smile at you either. But again, this weekend I was accused of being very New Yorkie, whatever that means. so, So it might
okay,
be
that was me.
so it might be one of those New Yorky things.
One of those New Yorky things.
So Trina, well, Trina's from New York. Trina, help us out. Throw me a lifeline.
I mean, I don't be walking around smiling like who do it? Like why?
Do y'all wave at y'all neighbors?
Yeah, but I don't smile. I just be like, hey,
Right. Right. You just
like I don't really add the smile to it.
right. And you don't and really in New York, I feel like when you're doing, you don't really want to talk. You just
Right,
it's
you don't want to
polite.
go extra.
Right. It's just
So,
polite. There you go.
or if you closer, then you just do the head nod. You don't really
Right.
you don't want to start a conversation.
Right. Don't come and see no, don't come close. No. You don't
No handshakes, no, no dabs, none of that. Just
Oh.
the
Oh
head nod,
no.
keep it moving.
Right.
Yeah.
So is this like a community rule of like just we
It's
have to
just
like we got to keep our guard up? It was this movie
oh
that I
god.
watched. I think it was. I want to say it was Roxanne. It's an old movie,
Okay.
but
With
it was
Steve Martin.
with Steve Martin, and he was trying to teach his wife that it couldn't have been Roxanne. It was another
Mm-mm.
movie he was in. He was trying to teach his wife. They were going to go on this trip to New York, and he was trying to teach her how she was supposed to move when they walked in New York. And he was showing her around, around the house, like you have to like move with your whole body. And he just like showing her how to walk and how to move to like be in New York, or else they're going to be seen as tourists and they would get robbed and all this kind of stuff. So is it like a protection type of thing? Like you can't like be too cheesy and too like looking like you're just like happy go lucky, like hey, I'm here, I'm ready for you, just to do whatever you like with me. Like, what is it?
Um, Trina, I'll let you answer first.
I don't know. It's just I don't know. We don't engage unless we have to. I think I don't know. That's just how. I mean, I speak. I think that's good. I said, hey.
I
And
mean,
you
I
would think
think
I'm
it's
totally
just
Southern, right? Because I'm not, by the way. I'm from Detroit, but like,
honestly, I think for the most part, for native New Yorkers, it's not really about a protection thing. Like when you've been raised and here, I think it's just when you're a kid, I guess it kind of depends on your block. If you grew up on a block where everybody spoke to each other, then you probably would grow up, you know, like whatever. Like as a kid, we lived on the same block till I was like 11 years old. All the people that lived around my grandparents were the same people. I knew all their names. So yeah, when you went outside, you always spoke to some of them. Once we moved, yeah, there was like, and then I kind of moved around a little bit as a kid. So you don't really be trying to get to know people like that.
right.
I don't know. I knew the people at church. That's all.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a New York thing. Okay, Trina, I'm sorry. Back to you. We don't went all down a rabbit hole.
We did.
So you want to tell us about your experiences?
With- I think with regard to text messaging, I mean, of course, it's just like sometimes if you kind of know that the person may not hear your tone, so you have to add a little emoji or LOL, just so like, let me just make sure they don't take this the wrong way. But then there's some people you can just your people, you can just type whatever, and they're just gonna be like, she's silly anyway, so whatever. But as far as how you hear things, I think sometimes it's just like I know when how can I put this? It's like if I hear something from someone and I have to tell it to someone else, right? Sometimes I'll put some sugar on it if I know this person may take it um a certain way.
Yeah.
So, if somebody came and was rah, 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 but I still got to tell this person this, I'm like, well, they kind of said that they felt a way, even though they was over here rah, rah, rah about it. I don't want the next person to be mad and getting all upset. So I want to tell them. So I'll just be like, well, they felt a way about it and they thought they might want to have a conversation. So sometimes you filter what somebody told you because you don't want a different outcome over here, or you want to make that person um, be calm about it, or what I'm saying. Sometimes you have to deliver bad news to somebody, like say you have to deliver bad news, so you kind of say it calmly and you add some, but don't worry because we're gonna, So a lot of times, how we listen, we take it in, we'll filter it, and then put it back out. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? I mean, we do that purposely, because sometimes it's what we've been through, so we don't want to put it on the next person harshly.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
No,
Yeah,
it does.
it
Oh,
does. Yeah. I think we interpret information the way we hear it, and it's kind of
mhm.
like you translate it into
Right,
what you think, how it needs to be communicated
right.
differently. But you're trying to get the same message across, but making sure that it's understood properly. Like a lot of times, even not trying to do like more so the tone interpretation. Sometimes I change the wording of things.
Hmm.
To make sure that it's clear, to make sure that it's clearly under, because like you listen to a person and because you know that person, you might be able to interpret what they're saying,
Hmm.
but you don't want to say it exactly that way. You might want to say it another way. So it may be like, well, what they really mean is da 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 da, and you kind of give it to them that way. I do that a lot of times with like between my husband and the kids. um he
Right,
he
right.
might say something to me and I'm like, okay, I hear what you're saying, but I also know how they're going to hear that. So let me say it to them this way and give it to them this way so that they get it and they actually understand what I'm trying to say and what you're trying to say. Or even we might be in the same room and we might all be talking and I'm like, but what he means is, or to him, like, but what they mean is.
But
So
what's funny? When we were teenagers, it was the opposite. It was like somebody would hear something, and then here come the instigator. And what
right.
they said, and they was coming, and they had your name all in their mouth. Like, what? That is
Yeah.
not even what I said.
Yeah.
It was like the opposite when we were teenagers.
Yeah.
We got the instigator trying to hype something up because it was like
Right.
3 o'clock after school.
Yeah. Like she said she wasn't scared of you, but she said if you bad.
Right,
And all she really said was, I don't care.
right.
She said if you bad, come knock this chip off her shoulder.
Okay, so I guess y'all kind of sort of answered my next question because I was gonna say, like with the whole filtering though, doesn't it change the message though?
I think sometimes it can, but not all the time.
So like if I said, Shanetta, tell Trina I don't like her no more. Now first of all, I know Shanetta is the queen of sugar. So I already know that by the time the message gets to you, Katrina, it will be Sam said she's just gonna take a break for a little while. Like she's never
Absolutely how it was. It was
She
just
needs a little time
right.
to work some things through.
she has a lot going on. She's a little upset right now.
Oh,
She's
she's going through something. She's gonna tell you I'm going through something. That is, yeah, but like I don't know. I feel like sometimes the spirit of the message gets lost though. You know what I mean? Like by the time I filter it, because I hear what you're saying, and I get it. I get what both of y'all are saying. You filter it through because now you're thinking about either how that person might feel about what was said, or how you would feel if somebody said it to you that way.
hmm
Right, but what if I meant it exactly the way that I said it?
sometimes the spirit of it needs to be lost. That's just that's kind of the truth behind it. Sometimes, like the way we felt about it, like we really may have meant it with all of our heart, all of our mind, all of our soul, but sometimes we that kind of needs to be toned down, and that's why it's good to have that middle person to kind of say, okay, look, I know her, I know you. She has something going on right now, and she's kind of ticked. And I need you just to give her some space because, like, if we collide, this is gonna go kaboom. So we don't need a kaboom right now. So I'm the kaboom calmer in the middle of that situation.
See, that's why you're a teacher. That's exactly why you're a teacher. Because you totally diffused that. He said, do you feel the message get muddled when you overthink what you're saying? Yes. For me, like, I get frustrated. Like, when I can't just talk to you like me. I mean, now, and I don't even mean like the stuff in my head, because I have to filter things through my head because I know that I'm New Yorkie. So, being down here, not in New York, typically I do filter things through my head. And I know Shanetta's probably like, oh, that be the filtered version? Yes, Shanetta, that is the filtered version. Um, but it does get frustrating for me, um, trying to figure out how to say what I mean to say with some sugar on it. So I think it definitely does get muddled when you like it's too much overthinking. Cause I'm just like, forget it. I just won't talk to you. You'll get the hey and the walk away because now this conversation has gotten too complicated.
Right. I think when we get to that place where we're so busy trying to I guess not hurt another person's feelings or trying to process how we need to say it for the sake of the other person. Sometimes that's when I had a person tell me a few years back to take 24 hours to respond to anything. Don't respond. Like if it's something that kind of stirs you up, if it's something that's just like whatever, it's whatever. But if it's something that kind of makes you feel a certain kind of way, to give it 24 hours before you respond, because within that time you would have come up with a better way to say it. And when I think about that, I think about how how you say something real fast and then they say something back, or like when you're having that verbal conversation and then you're like, and I'm done, and then you walk away, and then like an hour later you're like, I should have said da 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 da, and I should have said da 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 da, or I could have said blah 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 blah. You come up with all these things that you could have or should have said. I think that if you give it 24 hours, if you give it some time, maybe there will be a different kind of atmosphere when you communicate it. So where you might be saying the same thing, but it may be perceived differently because the atmosphere is different, because we're not as heated, because we've slept on it, because we're over it at this point in some cases, where now we can really have a real conversation. I can say what I mean, you can say what you mean, and we can hear each other. Um, but I think many times when we say stuff in the heat of the moment, especially like with your spouse, when you say stuff in the heat of the moment, you're mad. You have feelings behind it sometimes, and it's not necessarily how you meant it. But it comes off ugly. It comes off, and it's just kind of like, but I love you, boo. I didn't really mean to hurt your feelings. Like, come here, let me give you a hug and a kiss. I don't know. That's me sometimes.
Right. I'm about to say.
I'm like, that was rude. Like, I meant what I said, but I didn't mean it as harsh as I said it. I love you. Come here. So I don't know. And then my husband probably be like, no, girl, you just be like, I meant what I said.
I'm gonna say I definitely agree with what you say. That 24 hours for most people probably is like a great thing. Like, like for me, honestly, if I have to wait 24 hours, I have settled the conversation in my head. Meaning, like, I've settled it. So, like, I'm not gonna talk about it. If it's one of those things where I feel like it was intentional, something you've done, in 24 hours, oh, you meant what you did. I didn't like it. And, like, I don't know, like, 24 hours for me, like, it's too long in my mind. No, I'm not, I'm just saying, like, mainly because, like, I don't really hold a grudge.
Hmm.
So, like, I can see you and I'll say hi, but,
Hmm.
like, my inner switch is off. Like when it come to you, the switch is just off. Like I don't have any ill will. I don't have any happy feelings toward you. You're just there. Just hey, and it kind of goes like that. So yeah, the more I sit on something, like, cause all night long, my mind is gonna replay the scenario.
Hmm.
Oh, remember she was all like this. She meant it. Oh, wait, I think she even said something about your mama. Like,
And you probably hyped it up more in your inner
probably,
plane of the situation.
yeah, by the time it's over, you meant it.
But I think that's really part some of the point of it, that you're listening to what the person said through the filter of where you are. So if say for example you're talking, okay, me, I'm talking to a guy because I'm the only one that's not married here. Say I'm talking to a guy and my past couple situationships have been with people who lied to me. So now this new guy's talking to me, and everything he's saying to me is just all I see: lies, lies. He's lying. He's just a liar. You know what I mean? And,
Right.
I'm not even taking the chance time to see. Well, maybe he's not a liar, but everything just sounds like lies to me
Right.
because I'm looking through a filter of being hurt before. You
Right.
know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, if you've been through something where, people had ill intent toward you, then somebody's saying something, you're gonna take it to, what do they mean? Or
Yeah.
what, you know what I'm saying? So it's always um it's good to take time, because now you want to ask yourself, am I hearing this through my past pain, through my past experiences, or is there another way that this person could be saying this? Maybe this guy's not a liar. Maybe this
Right.
person is different. Or maybe they are a liar, but we don't know yet. We just have to
The
wait and
jury's
see.
still out.
Right, right. So I think sometimes you do have to take time and maybe think it through. And sometimes you got to communicate. Sometimes you just have to ask and say, well, what did you mean by that? Or this is what I said, this is what I meant, and let me be clear about what I meant so that we can be on the same page and we're not misinterpreting each other. Yes, they allow a whole entire lie. Go lay down and talk because you're lying. Right. So,
I mean, I get it. I agree, and I mean, I think, yeah, mine isn't so much based on past pain, but definitely based on the whole. I don't really trust people anyway. You know what I'm saying?
right.
Like, and just so it's kind of like, yeah, I shouldn't have trusted you anyway. I'm over this. Like that kind of deal. Like that. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
and don't get me wrong. It's something that I'm not gonna say I'm working on. It's something that I probably should work on. And over the years, I have gotten better with it. I mean, because I do extend myself
Hmm.
more than I have probably in my whole life. Trina, you went to church with me when I was a teenager. That's what I'm saying. I extend myself now probably more than I ever have in my life, but I am still working on putting that hatchet down. Because I just be like, all right, let's move on. Like, all right, throw that in the garbage. Let's see what's around. And I can't even say like it was a lot of things that happened or people done to me because honestly, I've never really given people a lot of chances.
Right.
It's just,
You have
yeah,
selective access. Like everybody doesn't have access to that inner territory to kind of just be a part of, to even get to the place where they could,
Yeah.
give you a reason. For me, I know that I'm a person that, you know how there are people who they're like, oh, I just trust everybody until you give me a reason not to.
Yeah.
I'm kind of the opposite of that, where I don't trust you until you give me a reason to trust you. I'm skeptical of people until I kind of get to know
Right.
you and I'm familiar with you. And then I might still have some, just based on how you move, might still give me some, a little bit where I'm just kind of looking at you like, okay, so I know I can do this, but I can't do that. I can say this, but don't get too personal with this person because you don't want your business out in the streets because
Right.
clearly they talk. You kind of learn people, and as you learn people, you learn how to trust them. And I think that plays a role in how we perceive others when they're communicating, how we understand what they're saying when we're listening with our hearts and we're listening with what's going on with
Right.
you. So I think all of that plays a role in everything that we're doing.
I absolutely think that is true. So just as doing a quick reset for anybody who may be joining late or you watching on a replay or whatever the deal is. Yes, tonight we're talking about how we listen to things that's said to us. Are we listening, I don't know, from a pain-free place? Some of us are messy ourselves, so everything that's said to us sound messy because we messy. So I'm just being honest. Sometimes we are the problem. Like, I'm not even gonna act like sometimes I'm not the problem, because sometimes I do realize that, yeah, I could have did that better. Dang. And here we're gonna have to keep going because I already messed that one up. So sometimes, how we hear things, how we process things is based on experience. So that is kind of the conversation that we're having tonight. Right, Shanetta, you want to say something?
Yeah, I would just say that I know that when you talked about sometimes our intents being messy, sometimes
Okay.
our intent
Okay.
being
I told him I was going.
malicious with whatever comes
You can go back and
across
put your face.
in what we're communicating. I know that there are times where I would have to say that we do have to go back and say, what Sam just said. How did I say that? How did I put that out there? Is there a way for me to have said that better? I know for me, I do that a lot of times with my own kids and with my husband. Like, how did I say that to him? How did he receive that? How did he take that? Was I being mean when I said it? And then I have to go back and kind of give that apology of, well, I didn't mean it that way. This is how I really meant what I was saying. My bad. I'm sorry. Or that conversation with the kids where you have to kind of go and say, well, yeah, I meant what I said, but how I said it could have been, a little bit different. I wasn't trying to hurt your feelings. I'm trying to get my point across. I'm trying to help you understand that I'm not trying to break you down, but I need you to hear some real truths. I need you to hear what I'm saying to you, because if you don't hear what I'm saying, you're gonna go out here in this world, your feelings gonna be hurt all the time. So you need to hear it a certain type of way at home. You need to hear it a certain type of way from your mom before you go to school and one of the little kids tell you that you stink. So like,
Right,
let me
right.
tell you, boy, you need to go take a bath. You need to go take that shower. Because by the time that little girl at school tell you that you stinking, then you're gonna be all embarrassed at school and have your little feelings hurt. So let mommy tell you first, and then you can go work that out. Let me tell you that you smell like hot ketchup and onions before you leave this house. Well, sometimes they need to hear it the hard way, just depending
Right.
on what
Right.
we're trying to communicate. And I know, Trina, you have a son. So, sometimes we have to tell them what, like, I don't know. I talk to my sons all the time about like their appearance, and like, you need me to communicate this to you a hard way, because I don't need you going out in the world and you just out here smelling like hot ketchup and onions, and um nobody
Not
at home
ketchup
bothers
and
to say,
onions.
hey baby, put some deodorant on. Well, wash that first and then put the deodorant on.
Yeah.
Listen, I totally agree. Okay, so yesterday, to our audience, we did a little, we're going to try a little test run. I will say I messed it up because by the time I called Katrina,
Uh oh. Did she freeze or is it us?
I think she
good.
froze.
Okay,
Uh
now we're back.
oh.
Okay,
Okay.
repeat what you
I
said. You froze for a minute.
Okay, I was saying, I was just saying we were gonna go ahead and do our game. You know what we tried to do anyway, and I said, I kind of messed it up a little bit because I don't know. Trina just really didn't seem like she wanted, and I lost on my nerve. I don't know what I was saying. I just started rambling, very nervously. He said they better get that hard talk at home because it's harder when you get it at school from a peer. Oh,
Right.
absolutely. Your friends are relentless, and then they make fun of you, and then
And
everybody, like,
kids
oh
are
man,
just mean.
I wonder if someone, I know Anthony remember, there was a boy in high school. I didn't go to elementary school in the same town I went to high school in. All I know is they used to call him the pee pee boy in high school, and
Oh,
right, it was terrible.
Oh,
It was something from elementary, but I didn't go to elementary with them. So like I didn't really please don't say his name on live. I don't know. But I thought it was like so terrible to call somebody that in high school. So yeah, people can be relentless. Okay, so I called Trina and I told her something and she was supposed to tell Shanetta. So again, I was rambling and probably all over the place. So Shanetta, tell us, I think, what Katrina said to you.
okay. So remember earlier how I said when I hear things, I
Oh Lord.
interpret them.
Okay.
I'm not sure what I heard, but I'm going to tell you what I interpret because that's literally what I do. Like I hear things and then I interpret them, and yeah, it's a weird thing that I definitely do, and I will swear that that's exactly what you said, how you said it, but it had interpretation in my brain. Okay. Oh man, and he remember him too.
I'm not that
Oh,
too.
poor guy. He probably like just like amazing these
And
days.
he was but he was nice in high school. He was a nice boy. I don't know.
He probably the best
Yeah.
smelling guy walking around New York right now.
Listen, if I was him after high school, I would have moved out of New York. That's for sure. Or at least out of that area.
Right. Okay, my interpretation of what I heard. So I heard that there are moments that you are seen as an extrovert because you do the show, because you do the show with Anthony, because you're kind of out there kind of doing different things. You're viewed as an extrovert, but that in reality you really have some difficulty with open communication. It's easier to do it online because you don't see the eyes necessarily looking back at you, but when you are in person trying to do something similar to this or something like this, it could get very difficult for you because you're in front of other people, and people just look weird sometimes and look strange at you, even in church. And that makes it hard to be in the forefront during those times. That's my brain's interpretation of what my phone call was with Trina. Trina, I'm sorry if I got this all wrong.
Okay, so Trina, you tell us what you said to Shanetta.
That's pretty much what I said. I mean, she didn't change it up too much. I mean, I told her that like she didn't change it up. That's pretty much exactly what I said. I think um no, there's no sugar added to it. That's pretty much what I said. I think.
Listen,
I
so
mean, it
okay,
has
so
been like
Anthony
24
said,
hours, and I'm old, so
is that right? Yes, more or less. That's what
I'm
I
forgetting
said.
stuff. I forget stuff, right?
Yeah, she was more or less right. Like I said, there was a little extra sugar in a
Just
few
extra
little.
sugar.
She made it seem like so nice. But for the most part, yes, that is basically more or less what I told Trina. She didn't get too far, out. Yeah, that I did say, which is true. Like, I can do this show. Everybody in the comments, don't bother me because I feel like I don't have to look at your eyes. Look back at me. But like you said, like church, or just being up in front of a crowd is you talking about sweating? Huh? There's sweat. There's like you feel like your mouth ever gets stuck together. You trying to get the words out. So yeah, she basically did get the gist of what I said. So yes, Anthony, to answer your question, it was right. But I also feel like they tried very hard to make sure it was right because we all knew it was an experiment. So nobody was really, like when something is an experiment, you're like, oh, I'm not gonna be the one to mess this up, and we got to be on
Right.
live, right? And you got to be on live in front of people. But so I think knowing it was an experiment kind of makes the difference. But as you can see with Shanetta, she is, like I said, truly the queen of sugar. Like, she's going to sugar it down. She's going to sweeten it up. So listen, if you ever talk to her and you don't get sugar, please know that something is wrong with you. I'm just going to say that. We talked over the weekend, and when I say she campaigned like she was saving somebody's life. You hear me? She would everything. She had a good excuse for every single. Well, maybe it's not, and it's not so bad. Or maybe it's this, and maybe, and maybe, and maybe. So I do know anything that goes through her is going to be filtered rather sweetly by the time she lets it out, unless you have crossed some line that you definitely don't want to cross. But the point of the conversation, the point of the whole experiment was just like I said. Sometimes you've had a long day, or it was a hard time getting your kids up and getting them ready for school, or your kids bring home failing grades, and at that moment you feel like a bad mom, or you feel like you failed, and then somebody call you and say, hey, well, did you try? Oh, so now you calling me a bad mother? Like, even though that may not be their intent, but you hear
Right.
it that way because in that moment, you're already weighted down with all the things you're feeling.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just have to be about your kids or with your spouse, but sometimes this happens to us. Even at work, it's like, you go to work, you hate this job. In your mind, I just need to get to this date, and then after my trip, I'm going to look for a job, or I'm going to transfer over here, or you have all this stuff in your mind, and then here comes your boss on a Friday at about 4:30, when all you want is to finish out your 30 minutes peacefully, and they say something, and just whatever he said, you heard the opposite.
Right.
It happens to us because we are human. We have emotions, we have feelings. As Shanetta will fight to tell you, sometimes you are just going through something. So, I would say that the 24 hours, for me, I think that's a long time. But I think sometimes when something is said to you or relayed to you, and it may not sound right or hit you at the right time or in the right spot, I definitely think you should take a moment of reflection and think about where you are in this moment, what you're feeling, and if the possibility is it really is you.
Right.
And that's a hard pill to swallow. That it could be you. You in this situation could be the problem. And no, that's not life threatening. It's just, wow, okay, that's me. Let me not do that anymore. And you move on. It's not one of those things where you have to beat yourself up or, It's kind of just knowing, oh yeah, I am letting everything else I'm dealing with affect this. So the point is to just be mindful of that. Take an extra moment or 24 hours to really reevaluate things sometimes. Don't be quick to rush to judgment. It can make a world of difference. Ladies, any last words?
I think that was beautifully stated. You kind of have to let things marinate, let it simmer just a little bit. Have you ever seen the Michael Jackson documentary? No? Okay, so in the Michael Jackson documentary, he drops a lot of like really good nuggets. One of his nuggets was let it simmer. That was like one of his things, like let
Okay.
it hold for a minute. So you got to let it simmer before you immediately respond to different things. So
Oh yeah, that's a good one. Let it simmer. Okay. Trina, any last words? Are you frozen? Okay.
Am I?
Oh no, I said Trina. Any last words?
Oh, me?
Ye-
Everybody's freezing at different times. So,
Oh,
are you talking to
okay.
me?
Yes, Trina.
Um, no, I agree with you to just be mindful of the fact that sometimes you are filtering on what you're hearing through where you are and what you're feeling and what things in your past. So if you take a minute and just say, well, let me just evaluate how I'm hearing before you react, I think it's always helpful.
Awesome. Ditto. I agree with all of that. Just, don't be so quick to react or respond or retaliate. Take that extra minute. It might make a world of difference. So we are on here every Tuesday at 8 p.m., 8:30 p.m. So join us next week, Tuesday. Until then, stay safe.